Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. So today we're actually talking exclusively about cards that are related to the Blue Eyes White Destiny structure deck. Now normally we try to have a bit more variety with things, but the Blue Eyes deck is actually causing a bunch of different buyouts all across the market. Of course, the deck is the ideal bridge that appeals to both casual and competitive players because not only is the main part of the deck very affordable and easy to access, but the deck actually saw a lot of competitive success at regionals and such over the past weekend, proving that it can be a very meta-relevant threat. So today we're covering a few of the more notable buyouts that we've seen over the course of the past week or so. Let's get started. Before we get started, I do want to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's video, HelloFresh. Guys, I know that life gets busy. We're all balancing some combination of work, school, social lives, and trying to keep up with everything that's going on with the Yu-Gi-Oh market, and the game itself can be a lot. And that is one of the reasons that I love HelloFresh. They provide fully customizable boxes to fit your preferences. At your doorstep, you'll receive pre-portioned fresh ingredients, so you only pay for what you need and you don't have to spend so much time at the grocery store. HelloFresh also lets you customize your delivery from week to week, allowing you to adjust delivery dates and even skip a week when you're not able to cook at home. This is their biggest menu yet, with more than 50 dinner options, so there's something for almost any lifestyle, including fit and wholesome, family friendly, quick and easy, vegetarian, and more. And as the seasons change, so do their seasonal menus, which highlight peak ingredients and flavors of every season. So guys, please click the link in the description or use my code MST.TV10 and get 10 free meals plus free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while the subscription is active if you're in the US. Outside the US, the local discount will apply. Once again, thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. Kicking things off, let's take a look at Dominus Purge. So Purge is one of the Dominus hand traps, and it's sort of like a weaker Ash Blossom. You stop your opponent from searching specifically, but you're locked out of Dark Water and Fire Monster effects for the rest of the duel. So of course, last year this card wasn't really that great, as it couldn't be used by Snake Eye or Fire Kings, and was basically really only used by the Melodious strategy. Now, however, this year, the Blue Eyes deck is able to play this card since they basically just play light monsters, and this card is basically extra copies of Ash Blossom that don't play into Triple Tactics talent. Now, over this past weekend, there were a few Blue Eyes decks that did really well at different regionals, many of them making top 8 spots, and I did see a bunch of those lists choosing to run Purge at 2 in the main board. Unfortunately, the success of the deck and this card has caused its price to surge. We saw this card seeing some hype at the end of 2024 because people were expecting it to see play in Blue Eyes. It had gone up to around $30 or so, but within the last couple of weeks this card has actually climbed up further to $50 for the secret rare version. The QCR printing is also up. I think the cheapest English near mint copy on TCG Player right now is about $150, but we mostly see them moving according to the sold listings for around $110 to $120. This is something that should be in the 2025 tins at the latest, though that is going to be about half a year away, which is quite a long time to wait. However, I could also definitely see this being reprinted in the quarter century Stampede set as a way to help push the product as well as the Blue Eyes deck more into the forefront of the format. Up next, this is a pretty interesting one. We have Aleister the Invoker. So for those of you that weren't playing a few years ago, the Invoked engine was actually a pretty popular one. It was sort of like the default thing that people tried to throw into decks that didn't need their normal summon, since the engine is very compact, it's very consistent, and it puts up an Omni Negate at just the cost of your normal summon of Aleister. And of course, Mechaba is a really solid card to end on, since it's able to both negate and banish a card during either player's turn, helping you to play through hand traps as well as being a disruption on your opponent's turn. Now, in Blue Eyes, of course, most people are on the Primite engine. The only thing is that it's really expensive, right? Since Lordly Loads are going to cost you $80 each, Ether Barrels are another $35 each, that's literally like $350 just for those 6 cards. The Invoked engine is something that some players are turning to as a budget engine, and honestly, it's not really that horrible. You still get a negate, and Aleister is a level 4 or lower spellcaster that you can use to go into the Blue Eyes Link 1 monster still. The strange thing is that despite this being a budget alternative, people seem to have targeted Secret Rare Aleister, which is the highest rarity printing of the card. To be fair, both Invocation and Mechaba have seen several reprints, so this is actually the engine piece that does have the fewest printings. The secret rare version of this card was only $4 or $5 before, but it's now up to between $18 and $20 each. Of course, the original super rare and the alternate art gold rare printings are still available at a much lower price, and that's probably the rarity that I would be playing if I were you guys. Keep in mind that we'll be getting the alternate art of Aleister in Quarter Century Stampede in all of the different rarities. So there's going to be the cheap end supers, there's going to be another secret rare printing, as well as the QCR and other high rarity printings pretty soon. Here's another crazy one that I think we just saw happen within the last week or so. It's Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. So this card is definitely no stranger to the meta. It was popular as something to end your board with in both Dragon Link and Tenpai Dragons. So yes, this is a bounce, but I think the crazy thing about this card is also the fact that it can bring out Magnamut, who searches for any dragon in the game. So by extension, this card literally searches for anything that you need as a combo starter for your following turn. Of course, now this card is being used in the Blue Eyes strategy. I do think that they would much rather go into their synchro plays, but maybe depending on what your opening hand has, or maybe if you get hit with something like Dimensional Barrier, Spheres is a really good option for any dragon deck to have access to. Now, since Tenpai Dragons saw a bunch of hits on the last ban list, no one was really paying attention to Spheres at all. This card was pretty cheap, coming in at around $10 to $12. On top of that, it was in Quarter Century Bonanza and is available in all of those different nice rarities, so all of the lower rarity printings were extremely affordable. However, we've seen the price of the QCR climb to about $20 last week, and then this week we've seen it shoot even higher to where the cheapest ones on TCG Player at the time I'm filming this are $50 each. Of course, this is a pretty crazy price to pay, but I mean, if you're gonna bling out your Blue Eyes deck with all of the QCRs, then this is one that you have to have as well. If you aren't too crazy about playing everything super shiny, definitely consider picking up something like the secret rare or the collector's rares as really nice but much more budget friendly alternatives. Okay, so super random one here, we have Synchro Rumble. So this card isn't really anything super crazy, but it's something that's definitely worth noting. Basically, this card is a searchable monster reborn for the Blue Eyes deck. It revives a tuner or level 7 or 8 dragon synchro from your graveyard, but then locks you into synchros for the rest of the turn. So on its own, this card doesn't really stand out, since it's just a bit more of a restrictive monster reborn. However, this card is being sometimes played in Blue Eyes decks, since it's a free search target off of Crimson Dragon. Definitely, it's Crimson Dragon's lesser known effect, but this card can be a free extender that you can search for while doing your natural combo. The only thing is that it generally kind of sucks to see this card in your opening hand, and also when I was looking at some regional lists from this past weekend, some of them were playing this card. I think a bunch of them actually didn't play it at all though. Anyways, this card isn't too crazy. It's a relatively new super rare from Age of Overlord. However, the set did come out about a year and a half ago, so it's not exactly the easiest card to just go and find at your locals. Because of this, we've seen Synchro Rumble go from basically being bulk to now being a $3 super rare from a relatively recent core set. Definitely an obscure one, but if you do have a locals where a bunch of people are picking up Blue Eyes decks and experimenting with builds, this is a card to dig up out of your foil bulk so that you can see if you can offload them for some value. Alright, so this one's definitely a troll. I want to make sure that you guys are aware of it so that you guys don't get fooled. We have Sunny Pixie. So first things first, this is a time card that some people are choosing to play in Blue Eyes. It's a level 1 light tuner, making it searchable off of Sage with Eyes of Blue, and if you use it to synchro summon a light monster, you gain 1,000 life points. I don't know how easy it is to actually make use of this card in this strategy, but I guess it's something that is potentially useful. 1,000 life points is a pretty big gap. Anyways, this card has 2 different printings available. It was a common in Ancient Prophecy, and those are still like pennies. However, its only other printing was as a super rare in the German Advent Calendar from 2011. So on TCG Player, they now actually gave this German version its own page, which is really great, but there's a big discrepancy between the prices here and the prices in Europe. Now, technically, the cheapest ones on TCG Player right now are like $40 each, but there's one that's sold at $10 and then a bunch that are actually moving at like $3 to $5. However, over in Europe, I think this card is literally under $1 still. Like, I understand wanting to play the nicer version of the card, so if you want to go ahead and spend a couple of bucks for like a shiny Sunny Pixie, then go ahead. But what I don't want is for players to think, that they're being smart by picking up the higher rarity version of the card early on, since even if it is good, right, like the market price isn't going to settle anywhere even remotely close to $40. So yeah, this one is just more of an FYI for you guys so that you don't buy into or invest in the wrong thing. Alright, here's a pretty interesting one. We have the Black Goat Laughs. So it's something that we haven't seen much of recently. Obviously it was used in Labyrinth for a while there, but Lab has completely fallen out of the format. It was also used as a tech option when Beatrice was still around, since you could dump it with Beatrice and then block a certain monster, which was really cool. Well, now it seems that the card is actually starting to see some hype again. So if you activate the Black Goat Laughs on the field, you get to declare a monster card name, and neither player can special summon cards with that original name except for from the graveyard. So I believe that this card is actually being sided in because of the Blue Eyes deck. Obviously the deck revolves around Blue Eyes White Dragon, so if your opponent can't special summon it from the hand or deck, that's going to greatly limit a lot of their plays. Beyond that, I do think it could be interesting against something like Ryziel. If you call Ryziel Detonator, the deck's end boards are admittedly a lot weaker. Of course, this is just me speculating, as I don't think I've actually seen the card in any deck list from the past couple of weekends. Now, price-wise, the secrets have shot up over the past couple of weeks, as they were around $20 before, but they're now up to $30. And then we have the QCRs, which saw a big price spike as well, going from 60 to 70 up to around 90. I don't know. To me, this card's like a little bit too gimmicky, but maybe it's something that people are actually trying out, maybe online or something. This card should get a reprint in the tins later on this year. Unlike Dominus Purge, I don't think that this card is something that's going to be as consistently meta relevant. It's probably something that I would try to sell off while it is seeing the hype. And finally, the last card we're looking at is Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. So this is an option for the Blue Eyes extra deck, and I think it's something that can be forgotten about sometimes. When we think of monsters to cheat out with Crimson Dragon, I think we're generally looking at Cosmic Blazar Dragon or Stardust Cypher Divine Dragon. However, Moonlight Dragon is actually something that some players are choosing to tech into the extra deck. On summon, you can use it to bounce a special summoned monster your opponent controls. You also get that effect when your opponent special summons a level 5 or higher monster, and you don't have to bounce the card that was summoned specifically, it's any special summoned monster. So on your opponent's turn, I could definitely see players wanting to use Crimson Dragon to tag into this card in order to bounce maybe a duo drive, especially maybe a little bit later in the game if you've already gone through a good chunk of your extra deck. Or do keep in mind that this is a level 7 monster, so you could use it with a level 1 tuner to go into a level 8, and you can kind of extend that way. Anyways, since this card was in Bonanza, it's got access to all of those really great, easily accessible printings. However, the QCR printing has jumped a lot. It was originally one of the cheapest QCRs in the set, coming in at only $6 each, but the QCR printing is now up to $18. I don't think that this is something that you have to go and panic buy, since it is just an optional card for Blue Eyes. It doesn't even make the cut in every single list, but I guess you'd have to pick it up if you do want to play like your whole Blue Eyes extra deck in QCR and want to have it just in case. That would look pretty cool. Just another one for you guys to be aware of in case you happened to have pulled this card in the past and just threw it into your bulk. Alright guys, that is all I have for today's episode. Definitely interesting to see just how impactful this one single structure deck can be on so many different cards in a particular format. Like, there's even more stuff that I could have talked about, but I don't want to have the video drag on forever. We'll definitely cover a few more cards in the next episode as well. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch, please make sure you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.